Welcome back to the deep dive. And hey, if you're one of the LACC abnormal psychology students tuning in, wow, let's just take a second.
Yeah.
You've hit the halfway point. Module 6 is here. We're diving deep into mood disorders today.
It's a big one.
Mm.
Honestly, this section is incredibly rewarding, but also, quite challenging.
Okay.
But this isn't just abstract theory. Understanding mood disorders, it's fundamental for any mental health career path, obviously, but also just for insight into, well, being human, yours, your friends, family.
Absolutely. And especially thinking about, your context right now. Los Angeles, the pressures of school, maybe career ambitions kicking in, figuring out identity, handling stress.
It's a unique pressure cooker.
It really is. So this module, focusing on mood disorders, these significant disruptions like that persistent sadness or losing interest in things or those alternating states of depression and mania, it gives you such a vital toolkit for navigating all that.
So our mission today, really, is to pull out the core insights from this module. We'll cover the two main groups, depressive disorders and then bipolar and related disorders.
And we'll get into the causes too, right? The biology, the thinking patterns, the sociocultural stuff.
Exactly. We need to unpack the why, biological, cognitive, sociocultural influences, and then look at how tailored treatments actually address these conditions.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with that feeling of pervasive sadness, depressive disorders.
Right. So the definition hinges on that persistent low mood, loss of interest or pleasure that's anhedonia, and shifts in basic functions, sleep, appetite, energy levels.
And major depressive disorder, MDD, that's the one most people kind of picture as major depression.
It is, but the module really emphasizes that depression is, it's a spectrum. It's complex. And for you, thinking clinically down the line, appreciating the nuances between the subtypes is critical for diagnosis.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about those subtypes. Why are they clinically important?
Okay. Well, beyond MDD, you've got persistent depressive disorder, PDD. Think chronic low-grade sadness, kind of a melancholy mood lasting at least 2 years. It might seem milder than MDD sometimes, but its chronicity is the key feature.
2 years is a long time.
It is. Then there are subtypes based on context, like the seasonal pattern symptoms tied specifically to, say, winter months with less light, or peripartum onset, which is depression during pregnancy, or in the weeks right after childbirth.
And what about those newer diagnoses, DMDD and PMDD? They seem pretty specific.
Very specific and very important. Disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, DMDD, that's a childhood diagnosis,
Yeah.
characterized by really severe irritability, intense temper outbursts.
Okay.
Clinically, this is introduced partly to, avoid potentially overdiagnosing bipolar disorder in kids. And then premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD, think severe PMS, but really debilitating irritability, depression, or anxiety right before menstruation.
Gotcha.
These specific labels matter because they point towards specific interventions, specific kinds of help.
So it's less about just finding a label and more about getting the right help to the right person. Makes sense. And the starting point for treatment for these depressive disorders usually involves meds and therapy.
That combination is really the standard of care. Pharmacologically, you're looking at frontline options like SSRIs, SNRIs.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors.
Exactly. And they're not just, sugar pills. They work by essentially boosting the signals of key neurotransmitters, serotonin, norepinephrine, keeping those mood-regulating messages active longer in the brain.
Okay, so medication can provide that crucial biological support for depression, which actually is a good transition point because it takes us to the other side of the coin where biology seems to play an even bigger role. Bipolar disorders.
Yes, bipolar disorder used to be called manic depression. The defining feature is that alternation between emotional states depression and then mania or hypomania. For bipolar I, you need at least one full manic episode for diagnosis.
And the genetics here, that's striking. The module points out genetics play a much larger role in bipolar disorder compared to major depression.
That's a key distinction. It really underscores the significant biological underpinning and often the necessity of medication management.
So how does the DSM-5 break it down?
Right, so the classification is pretty clear. First, you have bipolar 1. This involves those severe, full-blown manic episodes.
And mania isn't just feeling good, right? It's more extreme.
Much more extreme. Think intense elation, maybe extreme irritability, being excessively talkative, way more energy and goal-directed activity than usual, and that classic flight of ideas, thoughts racing, jumping rapidly between unrelated topics. It often causes significant impairment.
Okay. Then there's bipolar 2.
Bipolar 2, yeah. Here, you see major depressive episodes, but instead of full mania, you have hypomanic episodes.
Hypomania, so less intense.
Significantly less severe than full mania, yes. It's still an elevated, expansive, or irritable mood, maybe increased energy, but it doesn't cause the same level of disruption in functioning. Doesn't
Mhm.
typically require hospitalization.
And the third type.
That's cyclothymia. Think of it as a milder but more chronic form. It involves these long-term fluctuating periods of hypomanic symptoms and depressive symptoms, but they don't quite meet the full criteria, severity, or duration for a major depressive or full hypomanic episode. It's this persistent up and down over years.
Wait, cyclothymia. Milder, chronic swings. Thinking about LA life, everyone seems to be pushing so hard, high ambition, maybe periods of intense work followed by burnout. Could something like cyclothymia get missed, just look like someone being driven or busy?
That's a really insightful question. And yes, absolutely, it's a clinical challenge because hypomania, especially milder forms, can feel productive, even good. People might only seek help when they hit the depressive lows. So it can definitely complicate getting an accurate diagnosis. And for treatment, especially for bipolar Edding 2, pharmacotherapy is often central. Mood stabilizers, like lithium, are common. They're effective, but managing them requires care monitoring for side effects, things like nausea or cognitive dulling. The goal is long-term stability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's shift to the why. Perspectives on how these disorders develop. This feels really relevant for LACC students trying to understand the pressures around them.
Definitely. We can start with the biological angle. We mentioned family history, raising risk, neurotransmitter imbalances, no norepinephrine, serotonin are implicated, but also brain structure and activity itself.
How so?
Well, the module points to things like heightened activity in the amygdala, that's kind of the brain's threat detector, reacting strongly to negative stuff, and potentially reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area crucial for regulating emotions and impulses.
Okay, brain differences. And that connects to the diathesis stress model, doesn't it? Which seems incredibly relevant for student life.
Absolutely a central concept. Diathesis stress basically says these disorders often arise from an interaction. You have an underlying vulnerability, the diathesis may be genetic, maybe psychological, and then external life stress acts as the trigger.
So for LACC students.
For you, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have that predisposition, the intense pressures juggling school, maybe a job, relationships, just the pace of LA life, those stressors could potentially activate that underlying vulnerability, leading to the onset of depression or bipolar symptoms. It shows how biology and environment interact.
That makes so much sense. And linking that to cognitive theories, Aaron Beck's cognitive triad is huge here, right? Those negative thoughts about yourself, the world, the future.
That triad is core to cognitive models of depression. It's that pattern of negative, often distorted thinking. Like you get a bad grade, that's the event, but the thought isn't just, okay, that was tough. It's, I'm a complete failure.
Oh, yeah.
This proves I'll never succeed. My future is ruined. That pervasive self-criticism, pessimism about everything, that's the triad at work.
And that feels connected to hopelessness theory, too. Interpreting bad things as, like, permanent and affecting everything.
Exactly. If you see negative events as unchangeable, global, this affects everything, and internal, it's all my fault, it breeds hopelessness, which is a powerful driver of depression. If one setback feels like the end of the road, why keep trying?
Wow. Okay. And then the sociocultural perspective. That seems vital in a place as diverse as LA.
Absolutely critical. We know prevalence rates differ between genders, across cultures, societal roles, expectations, stressors. They all play a part.
And the module mentions something really important about stigma and how symptoms show up differently.
Yes, that's key. In some cultures, particularly non-Western ones where mental health stigma might be higher, people may be less likely to talk about feeling depressed or anxious in psychological terms.
So how does it come out?
Often through physical complaints, somatic symptoms, headaches, stomach problems, fatigue. These can be the primary way distress is expressed. So as future clinicians in a diverse place like LA, you have to be really attuned to that. That persistent headache might actually be signaling underlying depression.
That's such an important clinical insight. And just briefly, the other perspectives, psychodynamic and behavioral.
Right. Psychodynamic theories might look at unresolved unconscious conflicts from the past, contributing to current mood struggles. And behavioral theories focus on how maladaptive behaviors, maybe withdrawal, inactivity, are learned and maintained, which leads directly into therapies like CBT.
Which brings us neatly to comprehensive treatment. We talked SSRIs, SNRIs for depression. What about when those don't work? for severe cases?
For treatment-resistant depression, we do have more intensive biological interventions. These can sound intimidating, but they can be life-saving for some.
Like ECT.
Electroconvulsive therapy, yes. Also, transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, and even deep brain stimulation in some research settings. These are generally reserved for severe cases where other treatments haven't provided significant relief.
And on the therapy side for depression, what has strong evidence?
There are several well-established psychotherapies. Behavior therapy, focusing on increasing positive activities. Cognitive therapy, challenging those negative thought patterns we discussed. Interpersonal therapy, or IPT, which focuses on relationship issues. And even some forms of short-term psychodynamic therapy have good evidence.
Lots of options. And for bipolar disorder, specifically beyond the mood stabilizers, there's that specialized therapy IPSRT.
Ah, yes, interpersonal and social rhythm therapy. It's really fascinating.
What's the core idea?
It focuses intensely on stabilizing daily routines. Sleep-wake cycles, meal times, work or school schedules, social activities. The idea is that disruptions in these biological and social rhythms can actually trigger mood episodes, manic or depressive relapses.
So regulating your daily schedule helps regulate your mood.
That's the principle. By creating structure and predictability in the external world, it aims to promote stability in the internal world of mood. It's very practical.
Okay. Now, wrapping up this module, we have to touch on something really serious. Suicide risk.
Yes, it's crucial to acknowledge the immense emotional pain, the hopelessness, the feeling of worthlessness that can lead someone to see suicide as the only way out.
And the connection to mood disorders is strong.
Tragically strong. The stats suggest something like 90% of people who die by suicide have a diagnosable mental disorder. And mood disorders, especially severe depression and bipolar disorder, are very common among them. It's often a terrible convergence of vulnerability, maybe substance use, stressors, and a lack of support or effective treatment.
When someone is actively suicidal, there are specific therapies too, right? Crisis interventions.
Yes, absolutely. There are tailored approaches. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, is very effective for individuals with chronic suicidal ideation, often linked to emotion dysregulation. There are also specific protocols like cognitive therapy for suicide prevention and brief cognitive behavior therapy, which is a focused, like 12-session approach often used after a suicide attempt.
Wow, okay. This module covers so much ground.
It really does.
Mm.
It demands a lot, LACC students, I know. But this knowledge, from diagnosis to brain chemistry to life-saving treatments, it's incredibly valuable. It's a powerful tool, truly, for your own understanding and definitely for your future careers. Keep pushing. You're doing great work.
Seriously, navigating this material, especially halfway through the semester, it's tough. But you're building such an important foundation. Understanding mood, emotions, stress at this level, it's profound. And, here's where it gets really interesting as we think about what's next in your course. If our biology, our genes, our brain chemistry, and these big life events lay the groundwork for our moods, those deep lows, those potential highs, how much of our everyday emotional ups and downs, our reactions, is actually learned? And if it's learned, does that mean it's fundamentally changeable?
Ah, that question. The role of learning, conditioning, changing behavior through experience, that's exactly where you're headed next.
Get ready, because next time we're digging into the foundational principles of learning theory, it's going to be fascinating. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.